This is our first webinar on our virtual field inspection tool series. So in this series, we're going to be breaking down the virtual field inspection tool into small digestible segments so that you can learn different functionalities in the virtual fit in a useful way. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing strip settings, and that's how to configure your strip settings in the virtual fit. I will be looking at my screen over here, I apologize, but this is where I'll be working from. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about strip map settings, and that's setting up your ForwardWorks program so that you could see them on the strip settings, so that's your different data parameters, non-aggregated strips and data segments. And then I'm going to dive into how you set up your JunoIntelligence strips if you have them or when you get them. All right, let's go over to Juno Viewer and jump into how you set up your strips. So the virtual fit is under the Analyze menu. And if I click on the virtual fit, I'm going to need to first configure this page. And this is where I select my settings. So what segment I want to drill down and have a look at. And that might be a section that you know has a video or has been inferenced with JunoIntelligence, for example. Okay, so this one doesn't have, this section that we're going to be looking at doesn't have JunoIntelligence strips. So you configure your location pop-up menu based on the network. So if you've got multiple networks, you'll see a list here. Then you choose your section. I'm just going to select section 1 and then your subsection. I'm just in the training account, so I'm selecting a section that I know has data that I want to look at. And then you define your lane. And then here you'll see your from kilometer and to kilometer. That's your that's the extents of the section that you've selected in these drop downs. So if I changed it, then you'll see this section extents change as well. And then you've got your section ID. The date range here is the amount of videos that you want to see. So if you select 5 years, then you're only going to see the most recent 5 years of available videos. I'm just going to leave it at that and click OK. And you'll see here I've got kind of a blank strip here with all my JI strips. There's no JI data. So immediately I'm going to go in and I'm going to unselect all of these. So I don't want to see any of those. And we're going to go into those later. So just want to see this. These are my condition strips. I don't have any ForwardWorks programs up here yet. So I'm going to start configuring that. And to do that, I click this little orange cog button. If you hover over it, it shows up saying settings. So we know that that's where our strip map settings are. And this is the first dialog box that we're going to configure. Okay, so the view size in meters, that is your the entire extent of the section. So this section is under 2,000 meters, which is why we don't see a little dragger bar here. But if it was 3,000 meters, for example, I'm only going to see the first 2,000 meters on the strip, and then I can scroll to see the remaining part of my section. Your axis increments, this is to determine how many meters your axis will increment at. You can see it's set to 200. So down here, we can see our values are jumping at 200 meters each time. Okay, so save directly to your FWP. If you toggle that on and you make any changes, any edits to your ForwardWorks program while you're in the virtual fit, those changes won't be sent to the holdings table. They'll directly affect your FWP. So I'm going to leave that off because we're not doing any editing today. Treatment years, this is to set how many years of treatments you would like to see from your ForwardWorks program. The standard to set is about 10. If you only wanted to see the next 5 years of treatments, you would change that to 5. Show FWP. So if you toggle this on, this allows you to select up to 5 FWPs. So if you toggle it off, it disables this functionality. So I'm going to select my FWPs. I'm only going to select 2. This is the training account, which is why we have these training ForwardWorks programs with people's names. I'm just selecting 2, but you can select up to 5. And then if you come down here, you'll see display treatment year, and that is if your your construction is a split, the construction season is over 2 years, so it's a split season. You might want to display your treatment years like this. And that's what I'm going to do. All right, so I've configured my strip map settings. Now I can select OK. And you'll see the page refresh. And here we go. We can see our ForwardWorks programs now on the strip. And we're not going to go into detail about anything else. We'll save that for a different webinar in the series, but we're going to move on to the next strip settings, and that's where we configure our condition data, our data strips, essentially. These ones down here. So your ForwardWorks program strips always sit up the top, and then it goes your condition data. So if you click the little green and you hover over it, it says strip settings. And so we open that up, and this is where we add our data strips. So we can see we've already got some here. And if I click on it, it's going to populate these fields as to the selections that we've made when this strip was set up. I want to clear my selection. I don't want to look at any of this. I want to add a new one. So I click the clear button, and that cleared the selection that I had made. And now I'm ready to add a new one. So I'm going to add a data segment. We don't have we do have a data segment. I'm going to add non-aggregated data. And so you can see our data parameter strips have, they have statistics, they have statistical values, aggregate lengths. Again, we've got our grouping data by days. So that's what this duration means. And then we select our data parameter. Let's go through the process of adding a new one together. Okay, so I'm going to add a non-aggregated data strip, and I'm going to create one for surfacing. So I'm calling it surfacing, and then I'm going to select my table. I know my surfacing lives in a surfacing table, so I'll select surfacing top. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to select by location from for my order. Ascending, I want it to be line specific, and then my column. So it's the column from the table that you want to pull data from, and so I want to see my surfacing material, and that's what I'm going to do now. So I've selected surface material for my column, and then I've got my my date range, and that's how many years of data, or what date range do you want to pull data from. So I'm going to keep it at 10 years. And now I'm going to add my strip. So if I just click add, you can see it's populated in here. And now I'm ready to add the strip. And it's it shows up down here. I just want to apply my settings. And again, it will refresh the page. And if I close out of here, now I can see my surfacing strip. So now we've got our data parameter strips, data segments, and to delete it. So if you these strips are user specific. So whatever settings you configure in your virtual fit under your login are going to be specific to you. So it's not, if your colleague logs in, they're not going to see what strips you've configured in your view. So to delete it, you don't have to select on it. You can just directly click the little trash icon and then reapply your settings. And you can also reset back to your original strips. But that is your strip settings, your ForwardWorks program settings. That's how you set that up. Now let's go look at the JunoIntelligence settings. So I'm going to change my section to a section that I know has been inferenced on JI. Okay, because this section's a little bit longer, we now see the little scroll bar here. So our view size is still in 2000 meters. So we can see 2000 meters of our section here. Okay, so now to add our JI strips, that lives under this little orange button, and if you hover over it, it says show inference settings. The good thing about all of these buttons and pullouts is if you don't know what they do, you can just hover over them and they have the text there to tell you. Okay, so if we click on that, it opens this little dialog box called JI settings. And here we filter by the inference type. So whatever model your video has been inferenced on is where you select your settings. And if you want to see a specific distresses or specific assets, you can select those. I'm just going to say select all, and then I'm going to tick this little enable selected inference type asset strips. That's a mouthful. Checkbox, and click OK. And assets are still unselected, line marking still unselected, and that is also again going to refresh your view. And now we can see our JunoIntelligence strips. So these populate dynamically based on the video that you've selected. So if I go ahead now and select my video, you'll see these texts refresh, and now I can see my data here on the strip. The good thing about this is if you've got a lot of distress on a particular video, you can view it along with your condition data as well. Your surfacing information, your ForwardWorks program, and as well as obviously having the video that you can do a virtual inspection on from your computer. All right, so now if I go and select all of the assets, I'm going to click OK. That's going to refresh, and we should see all of the assets now as well on the strip. Okay, so that is perfectly 15 minutes. That is how you configure your strips on the virtual fit. I can see we don't have any questions, so that is great. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Bye.